Dobry wieczór wszystkim, I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic today. I'm Mysticle, and I'll be bringing you the latest in AR and VR news. As usual, you have chapters down below to skip to any specific part of this video that you might be most interested in, and with that being said, let's get right into it. The Quest SDK just got a pretty nice update to v74, and that has brought us thumb microgestures and improved audio to expression. Audio to expression is actually a really cool piece of technology. It is what allows us to take audio, like our voice, and turn it into an expression. Like I'm speaking right now, my face isn't monotone, it's not a single expression. Well, Meta has created a piece of software that will take that and throw it into virtual reality, meaning your avatar, even without face tracking, should actually have facial expressions of sorts. So updating that will obviously make that more clear, better, and potentially make the expressions more pronounced. So that's pretty cool. It adds a little bit of life into those avatars and makes speaking in virtual reality just a lot more pleasant. The thumb micro movements are also a nice little thing to see. We've had thumb movements in virtual reality for a while, even from the very first touch controllers, where they had like a little pad that you could place your thumb on, or if you touched a joystick, it knew you touched a joystick and your thumb would move up and down. Well, we've now got thumb micro movements. The update also includes helper utilities for pass-through camera access, which we spoke about in the previous video. The feature Meta just released to developers, which, if the user grants permission, gives apps access to the headset's forward-facing color cameras, including metadata like the lens intrinsics and headset pose, which they can leverage to run custom computer vision models. So this is absolutely huge, this one. And I think that's what we need to talk about right now. Meta Quest's Passthrough API is now out to developers. And as people have been stating in my comment section, this is one of the largest updates yet. And it may not originally sound like a wow factor, but if you really think about what this entails, it's a lot. Quest Passthrough Camera API will allow developers to access what your cameras are actually seeing. And yes, to a lot of people, that might sound bad, but it is a permission that you can grant. So if you don't feel like allowing the developers to actually use your camera access, you don't have to, but if you do, they can do a lot more with it. Theoretically, if a developer was to get access to your cameras and run a custom machine learning algorithm, we will no longer have to map out our space telling the game where what is. Not just that, but games, whether augmented or virtual reality, could now blend with your space a lot better. Let's say you're playing any title. Again, whether it's augmented or virtual reality, a custom machine learning algorithm could take a look at your cameras, see what is in your space and where, and change the game depending on that. And again, and a lot of people think that this is just useful for AR, but you don't need to see the space around you in order to leverage what is inside it. If, let's say, a virtual reality title has a workbench or a table, well, that workbench or table could appear exactly where your real-world table is. And even though you don't see the real-world table, you would actually be able to physically touch it and place things down on it. These games could also scale these items depending on your real-world objects. Now, this is thinking quite far ahead, but it is a possibility that could happen. And that just makes the experience so much more immersive, as you're able to physically walk up to an object, touch it, feel it, and, kind of feel its presence, because even though you don't physically see it, that presence is always there for some reason. Unless it's a TV. If it's a TV, you don't know its presence, and you will always smash it, so protect your TVs, everyone. Now it's here, as an experimental release for Quest 3 and Quest 3S. That means any developer can experiment with it, and even distribute APKs using it on platforms like SideQuest, but they can't yet include it in Horizon Store apps. Meta has taken this approach for new APIs multiple times in the past, and typically makes the feature available to use in-store apps within a few months at most. Pretty standard practices right there, actually testing out the API before throwing it into an official store release. If you guys want to try it out, I'm sure developers are going to be releasing on SideQuest in no time. I'm super excited to try this one out. Again, I feel like this is going to change the way we play a lot of our titles, especially if it's leveraged in the correct manner. And of course, not even going to begin on the thousands of applications this is going to have in augmented reality. Actually being able to correctly scale and utilize your spaces like walls, tables, beds, sofas, even TVs, being able to potentially project directly onto a TV when a machine learning algorithm recognizes that a TV is there. This could also allow for some pretty cool smart home apps running in virtual reality, where a machine learning algorithm connects to maybe an open source software, something like a Home Assistant or something like that, then scans your space around you and recognizes, hey, this is a TV. Would you like to maybe map it to a Home Assistant device? And then just by looking at the device and maybe pressing a button on your thumbstick or tapping like this, you're able to turn the device on. I mean, if you ask me, that sounds insanely cool, and I cannot wait to see things like this come out. Let me know if you're a developer potentially working on something like this. I would love to check it out. So, we spoke briefly about Meta's Orion headset and how other companies are trying to copy their lens production system because of the fact that they were able to get a higher FOV on Orion than other companies have been able to get on their AR devices. Well, Meta is now taking that a step further, apparently working on reducing the cost of the production of these lenses. This is obvious since this is a wonder material. It's going to take quite a bit of expense to produce, and you don't want that if you're going to be selling the device to consumers. So, reading from Road to VR, Meta's Orion AR glasses prototype is expensive to make, like $10,000 per pair. Orion's most pricey component is undoubtedly its custom silicon carbide waveguide lenses, although Meta says it sees a pathway to significantly reduce the cost of that key component in the future. Silicon carbide has actually been around for a while, having mostly been used as a substrate for high-power chips, owing to its better power efficiency and lower heat output. Unlike silicon carbide is much more difficult to manufacture though, with challenges stemming from its material properties, crystal growth process, and fabrication complexity. Again, kind of obvious, if they're working on getting this to consumers, the device cannot be costing $10,000 to produce. But yeah, just nice to see it. In case you want to know more, article down below. The Meta Horizon Creator Program is apparently now being expanded once again, allowing even more creators to join and giving them more access to more tools, including every single creator now having access to the Horizon desktop editor, which we actually talked about in a previous video. This essentially will allow you to use your desktop to create Horizon Worlds games. In case you don't know, Horizon Worlds is Meta's platform, kind of like VR chat, except they have a built-in editor into Horizon Worlds, allowing you to create and edit worlds right there in virtual reality. Now, this sounds cool, but from experience, I can tell you editing things inside virtual reality can sometimes not be as nice as it may originally sound, and if it's not done correctly, it can actually end up being more cumbersome. Well, Meta recently released that Horizon desktop editor, allowing creators to edit on their desktop instead of having to edit inside VR. So now more creators will get access to that, as well as more creators getting access to monetization and creation of assets. So props to them for that. That's pretty cool. Always nice seeing individual creators creating things inside virtual reality, and especially being able to monetize them. Apple is reportedly working on a pretty feature-packed visionOS 3.0 reveal during their WWDC event in June. This is reported by Bloomberg's Mark Gurman, who says the Vision Pro's operating system and not new XR hardware is going to be a focus at this year's Worldwide Developer Conference. For some reason, I'm not super surprised that Apple isn't going to be releasing a brand new Vision Pro this year. Despite its high price and premium appeal, Apple hasn't slowed down software updates for the Vision Pro, which launched in February 2024 for $3,500. Recently, the Cupertino tech giant has released a host of productivity features, including the long-promised ultra-wide Mac virtual display and full suite of Apple Intelligence features in developer preview. Now, Gurman reports, Apple is gearing up to showcase visionOS 3.0 at WWDC, which typically takes place in June. All signs are pointing to the company's Vision Products Group shifting its resources to other form factors, Gurman maintains. But Apple can't just let the Vision Pro die out. It has invested too much and needs to keep churning out the device's visionOS updates. The third edition will be a pretty feature-packed release, I'm told. There's no indication yet of what visionOS 3.0 could contain, although if it's anything like visionOS 2.0, which was announced at WWDC, 2024, last June, developers will most likely be able to go hands-on as soon as it's announced. So while we don't yet know what is going to be in the 3.0 release, full releases are usually the larger ones. So anything in between with a point, essentially like 2.6.1 or something like that, is going to be a smaller release than a full release like 3.0. This has always actually been the case with phones, for example, where Android 4.4 KitKat, why is that the last point I remember, was essentially an incremental release where not much changed, and then as soon as you jump to a larger full release like 5.0, well, you've got an entirely new, essentially, operating system. For those of you that actually own the device, that's one you can stay excited for. Niantic has actually sold Pokemon Go. Yes, we spoke about this, but back then it was just a rumor. We didn't actually know if it was going to happen. A $3.5 billion deal formally announced today splits the maker of Pokemon Go into two pieces. One called Niantic Spatial, that's pursuing core AI technology based on proprietary database of 30 billion posted images that's owned by existing investors and led by John Hank with $250 million in startup funds that includes a $50 million investment from Scopely, which became the new owner of Pokemon Go, and the development teams behind it, as well as Pikmin Bloom and Monster Hunter Now. For Pokemon Go, game developer and publisher Scopely issued a blog post welcoming the communities playing the game under their umbrella, with no mention of its parent company, Savvy Games Group. Savvy is wholly owned by Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, and they bought Scopely for $4.9 billion in 2023, adding it to a global portfolio that's included the likes of Magic Leap over the years. So in case you guys still play Pokemon Go, you've now got a new owner. Congratulate, that sounds terrible actually, but you now have a new company actually owning the game. So don't be surprised if some things change a little bit. Hopefully they don't change too much, but yeah, just thought I'd mention that here. Google is set to acquire ultra low power eye tracking startup for headsets and glasses. This is pretty good news and pretty cool news as well. As most of you probably know by now, Google, Samsung, and Qualcomm are all working on a headset together. So seeing them acquiring a low power eye tracking module, maybe for those glasses, is really, really cool. Low power eye tracking is always nice. There's a finite amount of space we have for batteries when it comes to headsets like this. Google is in the final talks to acquire AdHoc, a startup that makes ultra low power eye tracking tech for headsets and glasses, Bloomberg reports. According to the report, the agreement to acquire it is set to be completed this week and valued at $100 million, with an additional $15 million if certain performance targets are met. If it goes through, AdHoc employees will join Google's Android XR team. Meta considered purchasing AdHoc in 2022, the report claims, but decided not to go through with the acquisition. Google's Android XR platform is set to debut in Samsung's standalone headset later this year. Like Apple Vision Pro and PlayStation VR 2, Samsung's headset features internal cameras pointed at your eyes, combined with infrared illuminators that can help them see. The tracking is done using computer vision algorithms that analyze each frame and output the size and position of your pupil. But sampling and processing multiple cameras each frame is a relatively expensive process from a power, compute, and component cost perspective. Instead, AdHoc's eye tracking system uses a MEMS micromirror, a tiny electronically actuated mirror, to rapidly sweep a beam of infrared light over your eyes, and a series of simple and inexpensive photosensors measure the intensity of the reflection of this infrared light off your eye. It's a somewhat similar approach to the Inzai Lumi, the low-power Quest 2 and Quest 3 eye tracking add-on that was recently paused in favor of bringing this technology to smart glasses. Shooting infrared light at your eye is always going to be a pretty controversial thing. However, this has been the way companies have been doing it for quite some time, and my eyeballs haven't been quite burned out yet. So I'll leave that up to the experts in the comments section to discuss. Either way though, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned something new. If you liked it, please do leave a like. If you disliked it, I guess this button works too, but let me know why down below. If you guys are not yet part of our community, check out our Discord and our Reddit down below where I want to see you posting your spicy memes. And thank you so, so much to all the Patreons supporting the channel. You guys are amazing. You are what makes videos like this possible. And thank you to anyone else supporting the channel in any way, shape, or form. And as usual, if you want me to watch content coming upon the channel, make sure to smack that with your dim bell. And see you again next video. Peace. I feel like every time I do that, it becomes less and less legible. But hey, that's what we're here for.
Welcome to my vlog, everyone. How are you all doing? I hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic today. Yeah, don't worry, I wasn't about to film the entire video in a car. There's no power in the office. There is no internet in the office, or the entire house for that matter. So I decided to go outside and not touch grass, but instead touch a steering wheel. But also, I want to take a look at the sun and the fact that the sky is actually blue for once. So, you know, very nice stuff, very nice stuff. I hope you're all having a lovely morning. Half of this is not going to end up in the video.